Cause. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the council meeting. We'll get started. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Matthew Chambers.
Here.
David Morrison. Here. Travis Morrison.
Here.
Shane Drift.
Here.
Peter Bowie.
Okay, as always, we'll start with invocation by our spiritual advisor, Mr. Gene Goodsky. Miigwech, Jean. Okay. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Oh. Okay. Okay, so remove that.
Thank you. Under Joel, we have a sole source request for a hydrant replacement at Fortune Bay. Under Kim, the approval of the BIA multi-year funding agreement.
Where are we gonna put Joel? Hang on.
Joel's already on the
Okay.
agenda, so we'll just add it under
Sole source
him.
for hydrant, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, then under Kim is the agreement with the BIA for the multi-year funding agreement.
okay.
Nope, after, you guys have Kim? After Kim, under Pam, we're adding a name change to the SUD. Department. And then also under Pam, we're adding the CCDTF contract. And then under other, we'd like to add a discussion on the elder newsletter.
Move.
Moved by Chief, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Travis, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
silent, motion carried. Minutes from the August 7, 2019 meeting minutes at Nett Lake.
I have a question. If you look at the first page, during discussion on the minutes of July, no, not that one, the second page actually, when we were talking about the code of ethics, do we know where we are at with that?
Okay, I know with the code of ethics, that is still with Mark Anderson, so if we can contact him probably again after the meeting to see where he's at with that.
Okay. I think the other thing too is to point out the fact that for next year's per capita payments and stuff, people that owe money to either the tribe or the 1854, that we start posting stuff soon, get word out there so people have enough time to make payback agreements and work on it, so then that way next year, if whatever happens, happens, so.
Yeah, just an update on that. We had, on page 5 at the bottom of the page, it says that I was gonna contact Sunny Myers to say something out to Grand Portage and, Bois Forte with regard to the court order.
Mhm.
And Grand Portage did, agree to, withhold that court order for a year, so the people 54 fines. Boyer, I believe next year they will be required to.
Yep.
You said they need to be notified, everybody needs to be notified in advance, which they are. Any other comments, Shane?
No, that's it.
Shane, on the first page, did you ever get the list from Barbara with regards to the issues of the leasing program?
No, I did not.
Kathy, can you turn your mic on?
Sorry.
No, as regarding the list I asked for from Barb at the, there's a couple meetings when we were up at Fortune Bay, and, no, I never got that list.
Okay.
Also, we had issues with the committees and the chair people, and Jenna has gotten the list of chairs of the committees, and the next step will be to set up meetings with them, because we're finding that some of the meetings aren't being held regularly or at all, so we'll be setting that up.
Randy, I got a question for you. Would it be possible to list the various, some of the committees, or maybe even all of the committees, if possible, on the government website, so people will know who serves on what committee?
Yes, absolutely. If you can give us a list, we can certainly create a page and put it specific to
Good
that.
idea.
I think I have
Okay.
the list. I can send that to you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I know that Shane brought it up at the meeting with regards to days off, and it happened with our July 3rd holiday. And so at our last senior management meeting, we did have on the agenda with our senior management staff of what will be excused and what we need to use leave for, and holidays and stuff. So that, we ran out of time at our meeting, but that will be addressed soon. The last item is with regards to the appointment to the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging, Advisory Committee on Aging. We're still looking for a candidate, I believe, on that.
Yep.
So, okay.
So if you're aging,
That's the only comments I had with regards to the minutes. You guys have any other comments? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the August 7, 2019 meeting minutes.
Move.
Moved by Shane. Is there a second? Second by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Introduction of new staff.
Morning.
Good morning.
Introduce Brian Porter, who started with our maintenance department, building maintenance. Also, Jeffrey Madsen started at the same time, but he's taking a CDL test today. So.
Welcome aboard, sir.
Welcome, Tug.
Stay standing.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce Ellen Little. She's our admissions and occupancy housing coordinator. And Jenna Lee Porter, our administrative assistant for the housing department.
Welcome, Ellie. My hands are freezing. Congratulations.
Welcome, Ellie Moose. Welcome, Beetlejuice.
Heard that forever.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Appointed Panda Whiteman to the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Task Force for Bois Forte. Approved the request from Randy Long to Sole Source from Healthcare Appraisers Incorporated for a fair market appraisal done on the Bois Forte Health Services, Vermilion Health, and Vermilion Human Services in the amount of $3,750. Approve the request from Joel Astelford to Sole Source from Northern Salt in the amount of $28,000. Approve the request from Jill Schuchart to sole source a contract with the Johns Hopkins University for Marissa Rose to attend Family Spirit Training in the amount of $3,000. Adopted Resolution 22-2020, authorizing IT Department to apply for funding from Shakopee, Mdewakanton Sioux Community for a fiber optic to the home telecommunication project. Adopted Resolution 23-2020, authorizing IT Department to apply for funding from IRRRB for a fiber optic to the home build-out telecommunication project. Approved a sole source request from Randy Long for VMWare Licensing Renewal from Compudyne in the amount of $6,438. Approved the request from Billie Isham to sole source from MB Customs Development in the amount of $4,956 for window blinds, and adopted Resolution 24-2020, Fortune Bay Resort Casino Exterior Renovation Project, AIA contract, and LAP drafts. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Actually, I have some questions. The first one is for Randy, regarding the approved request for Randy Long to sole source for the healthcare appraisers. Any idea, once they get going on us, when they will be done, Randy?
I'm expecting probably a week and a half to 2 weeks turnaround on this to get the appraisal done.
Okay, and then for our listeners that are watching on the internet here, this is basically just appraisers are coming in to appraise the health office or health offices, and then give us the fair market value of what they should be.
They are giving a fair market appraisal of what, per se, we should be paying for a lease if we were leasing from a separate organization.
Okay, thank you.
Once that happens, then we have to negotiate with IHS for the 105L monies. So that, the first step is getting the appraisal. There's more beyond that.
So like if they say, let's say $20 a square foot, and we would have to go back to IHS and negotiate and say, this is what they offered, and IHS could come back and say, well, we'll go with $13 a square foot.
Yep.
Okay,
And that's a new program under IHS since 2017, I believe it was implemented, the 105L lease program.
Yeah, I'm not sure what year it was, but it's for, because so many places are building their own clinics and stuff and not being funded through IHS. IHS is providing funding for basically the operating or the space costs of those facilities.
Great, thank you.
okay. And another question was the poll vote from Jenna on Thursday, August 29th, 2019. Myself and Travis are the only ones that are listed that voted yes. Was this passed?
Which
For
one?
which one?
That's the one with,
For the blinds.
for the bonds for MB Customs.
I believe so.
Okay.
No?
And then,
Oh, we had 3 yeses? Oh, there were 3 yeses and 1 no response?
Okay, there were 3, but they must not have marked it down.
oh, okay, all right. And then, the other one is regarding, if you look at the resolution 24-2020, it says, whereas the Reservation Tribal Council previously reviewed project proposal submitted in response to RFP and selected MB Custom Development LLC as the construction manager and contractor, shouldn't it be listed as contractor at risk?
I'll double check with Mark.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments?
I did have a question.
Go
I believe that's for Billy. Was there also any other bids on these window blinds?
Billy?
It was done as, done as a sole source because they did the window blinds on the other side in the classroom. So they did the install and ordering, so we wanted that, so they did, that's why they did it on this side, early head start.
I guess I'm just asking because I counted my windows in my house last night, and there's 9 of them. 2 of them are big picture windows, huge. And I went online and I was playing with my computer, and I priced out mine and I came up with about $2,500 bucks. That is including what I would pay labor to put them up. So I guess I just had a question about that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's this, for, I guess, maybe IHS inspections, these have to be a certain kind, made of a certain material, I don't know. But that's what was used in,
Is that what's in the, like, when you do the construction, is that in the specifications book as to what's gonna be used in when a project is done?
yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea if you could find specifically what that says, and let us know.
Okay.
I'd like to make a suggestion to the council that before you approve a poll, that, you know, if you have questions, be sure and like with this regards to the window blinds, be sure and contact the person who's asking for the request if you have those questions, so those documents can be provided to you ahead of time, because really, if you have questions, you shouldn't be approving it until those questions are answered.
I think on the flip side too, I think that, you know, when people are submitting these polls, they could be submitting all the information that they think, you know,
Correct.
we all ask basically the same questions over and over because we're looking for this information or that information. If any information that they send is, oh, okay, I don't even need to ask a question because I already have the answer right here, so that might be an option too.
That's a good point. All the information when a poll is done should be provided to either Jenna or Victoria or Wickle when the polls are being done, because it can be scanned and sent out to you at that time too. So, Jenna, can you get that out for the directors? Good ideas. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the sole source consent agenda, consent agenda?
Move.
Moved by Travis, is there a second? Seconded by Dave, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, silent, motion carried. Next, we have Sue Larson. Where's that other- Good morning, Sue. Okay. Who is that? Is her microphone on? Yeah.
I have 2 contracts here that I'm asking, they're sole sourced, and I'm asking for approval on both of them. The first one is from Abbott Diagnostics, and that's for our Emerald machine, and our Emerald that's in the lab. Our Emerald machine, the company that we purchased it from is the only one that can do the analyzing on it, and it's for, the machine itself is for a complete blood count and for any accurate patient testing. So this is an annual bill that we get. All right.
Okay, I got a question. Oh, we finished?
Yeah,
Okay. I got a
I
question.
was trying to answer some questions before you had them.
If you look at the first paragraph, it says your service coverage will not change and your invoice will remain on the same payment interval. How much is the monthly payments?
We don't do a monthly payment for them. It's just $3,600 a month for them to come in and run diagnostics on it and make sure that it's running. If it goes down, we call them and then they come and fix
It's
it.
$3,600 a month?
A
Year.
year.
Yeah.
You said a
Year.
month, Sue.
Okay.
You said a month.
Yeah, did I say month? I'm sorry. It's a year.
Yeah, okay.
And is this just for This is for Vermilion, correct?
This is Vermilion, yes.
Okay. And you've got money in the budget for the
Yes.
costs, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on the extension and renew lab service contract with Abbott in the amount of $3,600 annually? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve.
Move.
Moved by Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
The other one I had, which was a late input, but it is for Henry Sharn. It's for the Dentrix Optimum package, and what the Optimum package does for us is it's able to, we can do electronic billing, we can send out your text messages for your appointment reminders, send out birthday reminders, so forth and so on. It's a annual fee, and it's will for both locations. And it's $4,213, and it is in the budget.
I like the idea of using technology for reminders to patients. The texts really help a lot. I know I've received texts regarding dental appointments, and it's great. It really helps a lot, so. Any questions on the Dentrix sole source? Dentrix bundles for dental? Not a call for a motion to approve that Dentrix bundles for dental in the amount of $4,213 yearly. Moved by Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sue.
Sue. Next is Joel Askelford with a resolution for a grant application to MnDOT 2021 Public Transit for Elderly Persons and Persons with Disabilities Grant Program, capital purchase for a bus.
Good morning, Joel. Don't start singing now.
Ask for the council's permission to apply for a MnDOT grant. It's a NOFO grant for enhanced mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. It's for a bus that'll be outfitted with multiple wheelchair positions. The seats fold down to make things better, a lot easier. The grant will require a 20% match. That 20% out of an $85,000 bus is $17,000, which will be generated through the contract we have with Cook Hospital to transport seniors to Cook Hospital. Yeah, it'll be available to all the elders and everybody with disabilities.
Okay, I just want to point something out here. You know, if you look at the second sentence, it says, MnDOT is accepting applications for expanded services capital purchases for the calendar year 2021. This grant is due September 16, 2109. Is that a typo?
Yes, that's a typo.
Okay.
Either us will be.
Okay, we have a resolution that authorizes the position of the manager to apply for the grant, and I'll just read now, therefore be resolved that the Bois Forte Reservation Tribal Council hereby authorize the transportation manager to apply for MnDOT 2021 Public Transit for Elderly Persons and Persons with Disabilities Grant Program - capital purchase, and be it further resolved that the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa has entered into an agreement with the state of Minnesota to provide public transit service, and be it further that the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa agrees to provide a local share of 20% of capital match for FTA Section 5310 Senior and Individuals with Disabilities Capital Vehicle Projects. And be it further and finally resolved that the chairwoman and her secretary is authorized to execute the grant contract or agreement and to designate an official to execute and deliver such other documents as may be necessary to implement the grant, including amendments to such documents. And that match will be dealt with within the program itself, its funds that they have available. So do we have a motion to approve that resolution?
Move.
Moved by Chief. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
And the next thing I have is a sole source for CW Dirtworks. This is a hydrant that was that is positioned next to the loading dock at Fortune Bay. It was hit probably a year ago with what, I don't know. We found it out when we were exercising the hydrants that it was coming up from the ground. Normally when you back over a hydrant, it's supposed to break off. This one did not. So we found that it was leaking about 10 feet down at an angle pipe that shoots off to the water main. So it's a lot more expensive than a normal hydrant replace. Normal hydrant replace is about $7,000, but this one we had to replace a lot of pipe in it too. So.
And that cost is $10,486?
Yep.
And that's in your budget, Joel?
Yes.
Okay. Those hydrants, even though they don't look very expensive, are expensive.
Yeah. The hydrant itself is about $4,000, and then we had to put new pipe in too. So.
But I'm wondering if some of our hydrants are so old that they're not doing that break off like they're supposed to. Is that?
Well, this one wasn't, when it was installed, I believe the date on that one was 96 or 98.
Wow.
It wasn't installed right. The sleeve that's supposed to break off was too far underground and it did not break off. So we have the correct sleeve on there now. So
Okay, good.
they're supposed to break off like the one that broke off in front of your house.
I did not do that.
No, you didn't.
Shane, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Joel? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the sole source for hydrant replacement at Fortune Bay with CW Dirtworks in the amount of $10,486.
Move.
Moved by Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Good job, Joel.
Next is Billie Isham with the Child Care Development Fund Grant.
Morning, Billy. You gotta use the, yeah, karaoke.
The first one is the CCDF grant application for fiscal year 2020 through 2022. And it's formula-based funding, so based on the child count that's submitted with the grant. And with this year, it was about 200 less than it was in the previous program period.
$200 less?
The child count was about 200
Oh,
less.
okay, the child count was 200
Mhm.
less?
We did not get information from International Falls or Virginia or the clinic here.
Oh, okay.
I got a question here. We're looking at all these signatures here, but then we don't have a planning director or grants manager signature. Are they supposed to sign us?
Yeah.
The bottom last two, they didn't sign it.
Yeah, currently there is no grants manager, and I believe at the time these were due, I believe Sidra was on travel. Why she didn't get the signature on there?
Here she comes.
The bottom last two signatures. I think the original copy, I think Jenna has the original copy.
McCo does.
So our total count is 472, Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, Bill. Did you get the child counts before from I-Falls and our clinic and where else? Virginia?
Yeah. I don't know why Virginia or the Falls didn't submit
Uh-huh,
It could have been the timing, out of school, I'm not sure.
all right. And then our own clinic didn't?
No, has to do with HIPAA.
Yep, all right.
Any other questions for Billy on the CCDF grant for 2020 through 2022? Not a call for a motion to approve? Moved by David, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Travis, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
The next one is for the nutrition consultant. We have one annually. They oversee the menu. They come and work with the cooks. And I can't see my print is so small. I don't believe there's an amount in here. It's just what her rates are. $50 an hour. She gets $25 for drive time.
And she's coming from Hibbing.
Right.
Is this for Vermilion or for both?
Both.
Both sites?
Both sides.
So it works with the Nett Lake School then?
Right.
Okay. Is it possible to also, maybe in the future, if you could, I'm not sure if this is something, but it seems to me that the elders program needs a dietitian to review their menus. I'm not sure. Because I remember Peggy Heastan used to come up years ago, and we coordinate with Head Start and with the E&P programs where she'd do both, come up on 2 days.
Yeah, I
So-
don't know if
But
this
is that,
one does.
that maybe we can check into that
Okay.
for the future?
Okay.
I believe the chef at the,
Yeah.
That's for
Fortune Bakery.
Vermilion though, but not Nett Lake.
I think she did, I think her and Jill did both of them.
Did they?
But they were looking at both menus to.
But they have to be a registered dietitian to
Yeah,
do it. They're
food,
not
the food service is a registered diet.
Yeah, they
do
had
have
it
a
through Upper
regist-
Lakes.
Upper Lakes
And
Food
now
has a
they're switching to
dietitian
Reinhardt.
on.
I don't know if Reinhardt has it or not. We can find out though.
Yeah, the menus have to be approved by a registered dietitian. Okay. But yeah, okay, that was just my question, but I'm glad you found someone locally, because I know Peggy was coming from Duluth or Fond du Lac,
Mm-hmm.
so. That was many years ago though.
Right.
Many moons ago.
I remember her.
Any questions on the contract with Janelle Lund, registered licensed dietitian? Not a call for a motion to approve? Moved by
Move.
Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Thank you, Billy. Good job.
This is Amber Zapata with a sole source request for a graphic designer designing a bus wrap.
Morning, Amber.
So I am requesting Jonathan Thunder as the graphic designer. And this artwork will be going on the Bois Forte transit buses for my social marketing campaign, Traditional Foods First. He is a native graphic designer enrolled in Red Lake, and he quoted me for $6,000. And he has reputable paintings and graphic artwork. So this project is grant approved, and this partnership will help me spend down my grant funds before September 30th.
Great. I personally, I like the idea of using native artists and stuff with regards to this. It'll be nice to see that on our buses because they travel all over.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea. And actually, one of the quotes is like 5520,
Yeah.
and so it's not that, you know, it's
Right.
not that way overboard
Right.
to have a traditional graphic designer, so. Good job. Any questions for Amber? No? Shane? Nope, good. Do we have a motion to approve the sole source request for, is it Jonathan Thunder?
Yes.
To do the graphic designing for the bus wrap?
Move.
Moved by Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Good job.
Miigwech.
Amber, when do you think we'll be seeing these?
I plan to launch my campaign October 16th.
Sweet.
Great,
Kinda
good
excited
job.
to see how that's gonna look.
Next is Melissa Wright with a sole source request for the 2019 American Indian Mental Health Conference. Fortune Bay is the venue.
Morning, Melissa.
Okay, so I'm just requesting for the sole source for Fortune Bay for the conference that we're hosting. We have pretty much everything finalized and ready to go.
How many participants do you anticipate?
We are planning for around 100, 150.
Nice. And this is a statewide conference, isn't it?
Yep, each year, each reservation takes turns hosting that is participating in the American Indian Mental Health Advisory Council, so this year is our turn.
Great. And this is in a budget to,
Yep, we get monies from DHS to host the conference, so it's all within budget.
good.
And when is this conference?
September 24th, 25th, and 26th.
Okay,
So coming
good.
up.
Any questions for Melissa? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the sole source request for the 2019 American Indian Mental Health Conference at Fortune Bay.
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Good job.
Next is Dan Milbridge, who's going to present for Mike on the Arrowhead Region Emergency Management Association Region 2 Homeland Security and Emergency Management Mutual Aid Agreement.
Can you say that again, please? No, I'm kidding.
And I have a sidekick. This is a mutual aid agreement with the county and kind of everybody else to provide ambulance services and emergency services. Kind of a standard contract.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the mutual aid agreement is for natural disasters. We just signed with the city of Bois, so I told Dan I'd answer any questions.
Yeah, I see it's with the various counties. There's Aiken, Carlton, Cass, Cook, Crow Wing, Itasca, Kennebec, Couchiching, Lake, Pine, and St. Louis, but it also incorporates Bois, Fort, Fond du Lac, Grand Portage, Leech Lake, Mille Lacs, and the city of Duluth. So it's Arrowhead Region Emergency Management Association. Is this annual or is it?
Yeah, it'll be an annual cycle.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on that?
If you look on page 4, under number 9, liabilities, 9.1, for the purposes of the Minnesota Municipal Tort Liability Act, MS 466, the employees of the responding party are deemed to be employees as defined in MS 466-.01 sub 6 of the requesting party. So that means that if we request somebody, they're basically our employees and we're responsible for them, right?
Well, as far as being responsible, I mean, everybody carries their own liability. Every
Yeah.
organization that's responding carries their own liability. When you get to a natural disaster, you always have someone that's in charge of the scene, and that would
be our person here in charge of the scene.
So then basically, well, what I'm looking for is that to make sure that if something did happen and we did call people in, and that if somebody was injured while they were here helping us, that they wouldn't come after us legally.
Well, they should, like I say, they have their own liability for that. I mean, if they try hard enough, yes, you could go after anybody for anything. But, I mean, in past trauma scenes that I've been on, you don't go after the person that's started the mutual aid.
Okay.
You use your own coverage for that, so.
All right. That's all I had.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the Arrowhead Region Emergency Management Association Region 2 Homeland Security and Emergency Management Mutual Aid Agreement.
Can you say that again?
Nope.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Chief, seconded by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. I have the original on my desk for this, so.
Next, we have Pam Hughes with the Housing Stabilization Services.
Now comes your slide, so.
I think so.
I'm a little late, but I want to introduce a new staff member.
Oh, yes.
This is Charmaine Jourdain, and she's our tenant service coordinator at New Moon.
Oh my God, you're tall. And she's not wearing heels. She's not wearing heels.
One more time.
Are you gonna do a,
Yeah. So this is Jane Lorenz from DHS.
hi Jane.
So she has a little PowerPoint presentation, so you might want to come sit out here.
Can you see it from there? Good morning. Thank you for having me. The first thing we're going to do is get out of the way is what's wrong with my eye. I wasn't in a fight. I wish I could say you should see the other guy, but that didn't happen. Little boating mishap on Labor Day. You can get hurt on a pontoon. So most people don't think you can, but you can. Anyway, we are really excited at the Department of Human Services because we have a new Medicaid benefit that will be available July 1st, 2020. And it's a benefit to help people get into housing and to stay into housing. So I'm going to talk to you about this today. So go ahead, Pam, to the next slide. These are some of the things we're going to cover today. You're going to be getting a lot more information, training, in-depth training, and support about this, but this is kind of to give you a high-level overview today of what's coming up. Go ahead, Pam. So we all know that there's a big connection between homelessness and poor health outcomes. And if you do have housing, you're much more likely to be successful in working, in your health, in taking care of your kids, and just doing overall well in life. One of the things we know is that supportive housing can facilitate stronger connections to primary care and more appropriate healthcare utilization instead of using the emergency room or waiting until things are really bad. Go ahead, Pam. So this is how this new service set can help. It can help people who need that extra support to live successfully in affordable housing. It can help reduce mental health symptoms, physical health conditions that are causing visits to the doctor or declining health. And then people with developmental and learning disabilities, it can be a lot harder for them to find housing and keep housing. And then also do that ongoing interaction with landlords and neighbors and understanding how to follow a lease. And so this is going to be the right supports provided by a professional with knowledge and experience in housing. And this will be a great opportunity to really further the relationship housing has with social services and your primary health clinics too. So, go ahead, Pam. So here's what some of the services are. And we're kind of excited. Minnesota is the first state to get this type of service approved. Right now, North Dakota is going for a similar type of plan. But this is a service that's available to anybody who's on medical assistance and has a need for the services. In the past, to get these kind of services, you had to be on a waiver. And to get on a waiver, you had to show risk of institutionalization. And it's a pretty high bar to get to. But this is available to really anybody who is poor on medical assistance and needs this help. Go ahead, Pam. And so these are the goals of the services. We're supporting somebody's transition into housing. We're increasing their long-term stability in housing. And we're trying to avoid future periods of homelessness or institutionalization. Go ahead. So these are what the three, this is the eligibility for the housing. You have to have some kind of disability or disabling condition, and that's very broadly defined at the Department of Human Services. This is kind of what it takes to get on general assistance or housing support. So it can include chronic chemical dependency, it can include mental health issues, it can include some kind of physical health issue or a learning disability, developmental disability that's just causing someone to have some housing instability or really to struggle. And they need to have this kind of services due to the limitations. But when you put this all together, this is probably a lot of the folks that you're all seeing every day that's struggling to keep their housing, or they're always homeless. Go ahead, Pam. So for the disability, it has to be either a Social Security level disability or based on what a medical opinion form, which is filled out, people get this filled out at the county right now to get on general assistance. And so you either have to have a professional statement of need, and all your medical staff, your mental health staff are probably very used to completing this form or the medical opinion form, or the person has to be on Social Security, SSI or SSDI, or some other kind of disability form we might be still working on. That might be something like a veterans form. Go ahead, Pam. So the housing instability is either you meet the Minnesota definition for homeless, you're at risk of homelessness, you're currently transitioning or you've recently transitioned from an institution or a licensed or registered setting, so like an adult foster care or board and lodge, that type of thing, nursing home, or you're eligible for waiver services. That's a housing instability. And again, you just have to meet one of those. It doesn't have to be all of those, just one. And again, we can document this with a professional statement of need, a min choices assessment, which is what people use to get on a waiver or personal care attendant services, or coordinated entry assessment. And that's for people who are actually experiencing homelessness. So we want to make this really easy for people to get this service. And if they're already being assessed somewhere else for the service, we want them to also be assessed for this service so they don't have to repeat their story over and over again. Go ahead, Pam. So we're going to look at the assessed need for services, which means that they have some kind of disability in either communicating, mobility, decision making. That's probably going to be the one that's going to affect most people using this service, or managing challenging behaviors. And the challenging behaviors could be due to chemical dependency, it could be due to mental health issues, developmental issues. We're not pegging that to any particular type of diagnosis. And again, these will be the same ways to get into the service. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. Go ahead, Pam. So the first set of services is the housing transition well, there's two sets of services, housing transition and housing sustaining. The transition helps people plan for, find, and move into homes of their own community. And so, for example, if they're going to find housing here on the reservation, they'd be working really closely with your housing director and her staff to get into housing, get all the documentation they need to make this work, and to learn how to live with their landlord, their neighbors, that type of thing. Sustaining, it supports a person to maintain living in their own home in the community. So this is the ongoing one. Go ahead, Pam. So the transition services, these are some of the kinds of services you can get if you are on this service. It's putting together a plan to help the person understand and develop a budget so they can understand what they can afford. We're also going to help them get onto all the benefits that they're eligible for. That could be anything from the state benefits of general assistance or Minnesota supplemental aid to Social Security benefits, or even looking towards getting a job and getting connected with services that will help the person find employment. We're going to help them organize their move, figure out how to get a moving service. We're going to help them figure out their lease, what they're signing, what the responsibilities of their lease are, how to set up their rent payments, all that type of thing is going to happen with the housing transition services. Go ahead, Pam. The next services is the housing sustaining services, and this is what the person will get once they're in housing. So this is to keep your housing now. So they're going to be learning what their rights are, their responsibilities, their roles of being a tenant, when they should call their property manager, when they shouldn't call their property manager, how to comply with their lease, how to keep their house clean, how to have good relationships with their neighbors, how to advocate for this person that's providing services will help them advocate for any resources they may need to prevent eviction, should that come up. And also some early identification of behaviors that might cause their housing to get lost or get evicted. So if the person that maybe has bipolar disorder and they cycle a couple times a year, this will be an important opportunity for them to figure out, what should I do when that happens so I don't lose my housing, which could have happened in the past. And then supporting them to build natural supports so that they feel comfortable and are successful in their housing. Go ahead, Pam. So the first part of getting these services is you have to have a plan, and it's a person-centered plan. And that is a Medicaid paid for service with this, unless the person already has a targeted case manager, which I know you have targeted case management here, or they have a waiver case manager. In that case, that person will be putting together the plan for them. If the person isn't connected to services already, this is a Medicaid paid for benefit to get this plan done. And they're going to go through what the person's strengths are, what their needs are, what they need to have to make themselves successful in the community. And then they'll help connect them with a provider of services. Go ahead, Pam. So this is going to be the new service available, this housing consultation plan. It's going to be updated annually or more frequently if something really changes in the person's life. So if the person, for example, got really sick, had to go in the hospital for a while, and maybe something happened to their housing or they need more services, they would get an updated plan during that time before their annual review. Go ahead, Pam. Here are some of the provider qualifications for housing consultation. You have to have a knowledge of the local housing resources, and you can't have a direct or indirect financial interest in the property. You have to have completed a training that we're going to be putting together that'll be available by online. It'll be like a WebEx training. A lot of it gets into how to make reports for vulnerable adults, how to do a person-centered plan that's respectful. And then the ongoing transition and sustaining, you have to have knowledge of local housing resources, you have to go through a training, and you have to have completed some additional training we're going to be putting together. We're doing all this stuff right now at the department. This is the conflict of interest protections, and actually this is going to be a little bit different for tribes. So tribes can do all three services: assessment, the plan, and then the ongoing services. You just can't have the exact same person do all three services. So this is where a partnership amongst your clinics, your housing providers, is all going to make a lot of sense. So you might have somebody at the clinic at Nett Lake or Vermilion do the assessment and the plan, and then you might have ongoing staff that do the ongoing transition and sustaining services. The way you're set up already makes it really easy for you to do all three services. You're in really good shape to do all this. And because you're a tribe, the cultural piece of it allows for you to be the same provider for everything. You're also in a geographic remote area for service providers. Go ahead to the next one. This is the billing rate. This is probably the part that everyone's the most interested in. We came up with a rate that's kind of in the in-between of some of the mental health services that are provided to people individually, such as the adult rehabilitative mental health services. So for both transition and sustaining, it's a $17.17 per 15-minute unit, or $68.68 an hour. So it's a pretty good rate. There are limits of 150 hours a year for transition and 150 hours a year for sustaining. We also have an exception policy and process. So if you're working with somebody who's really having a hard time getting into housing, we will have a process for you to ask for more hours, so to help them get into housing. And then the consultation is a kind of a one-hit thing, and that's $174.22 a session, and we're estimating it's going to take about 2 hours to do that plan. So we think the rates are pretty competitive. People are going to be really interested in doing this. Again, because you're a tribe, you don't have to worry about the managed care piece of it because you're fee for service here. So, go ahead, The person, when they're moving into the community, the housing that they're moving into has to meet certain rules to make this a Medicaid benefit. It has to be integrated housing. They have to have access to community resources. They have to have a lease, that type of thing. To meet these requirements, the best thing is to have a lease and that the person had some choice about where they wanted to move to. Go ahead, Pam. So this is, to make all this work, one service that's currently available just through waivers is going to be ending because this new service package, which is broader, pays better, and provides more hours of service, will be ending. And that's called the Housing Access Coordination. And also people who are currently on housing support, which was formerly known as GRH, and they have a supplemental service rate. That rate is going to be reduced by half because they'll also be getting this service too. So we'll be going through lots of training on both of these services and how they're impacted by the new service. So don't worry, this is just part one of lots of training coming up. Go ahead. This is kind of our timeline for implementing. So we did get the approval August 1st. From Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. We submitted last October. We went through lots and lots of phone calls and question and answers, and then we got the final approval August 1st. And now we're starting this whole implementation. A big piece of implementation is making sure our systems at DHS work so you can bill. And then July 1st of 2020 is what we promised state government and the federal government. We'd have this up and going, so that's what we're shooting for. And go ahead to the last one. So this is just one piece of the whole puzzle or the piece of the pie for everybody. And one of the big pieces that we've been missing for many years on how to make housing work for folks, especially people who have experienced homelessness. We also will be having some changes to our Minnesota Supplemental Aid Housing Assistance. That will also be happening in July of 2020. Will be more available to people. That's a supplement to folks who are on SSI. And you'll be hearing more about that coming up also. But anyway, we think this is the service piece that people need to make housing work for them. So, any questions? We are not doing the encounter rate on this. That's a question that's come up with tribes. We are not doing that because we wanted to keep this more broadly available to lots of people with lots of different kinds of disabilities. The encounter rate, you have to kind of single out a type of disability or a type of issue like chemical dependency or mental health, and we wanted to keep this much broader. So somebody could be getting encounter rate billed on them for other services, and then this services will be billed as a fee for service. So that's what we're doing. We're also open to reconsidering that in a few years after we roll this out if that is not working for tribes. We do think tribes will be able to implement this service probably quicker than anyone else in the state because you'll be able to do all the services, you don't have to worry about managed care, and you already are well set up and situated to do billing for Medicaid.
I got a question.
Yes.
So would we be billing for the services?
Yes, you'd be billing for these services yourself, unless you wanted to do it with somebody else. But for example, I know you use Epic for a lot of your billing right now. This would be just another service category added to your Epic billing system. Or, there's other ways you could be doing billing too, but it would be very easy to. We're going to have a couple of procedure codes added, and you'll just have this new code added.
Basically, where I'm going with this is that to make sure that this isn't a match program fiasco. You know what happened with the other two tribes. So
Yes.
Right.
that's what I'd not want us to get into.
Right, and that, honestly, right now, by not doing the encounter rate, that's going to help. And we're going to be doing extensive training. We have internal folks at DHS that just work on healthcare and the tribes, and we just met with them last Thursday, and they're going to also be involved in training to make sure there isn't any problems like what happened at Leech Lake and White Earth.
Okay. So then So basically, this program looks like would be creating more jobs for us then.
Yes.
Do you have a specific number of how many jobs?
You know, I think it's going to depend on the need for folks. I know your data is going to be coming out soon from the Reservation Homeless Survey. You'll be getting your data tables. I'm looking at Pam's head when I say this. And Melissa, I think a lot of you will be getting that. So that'll probably give you an idea of your need. But this is also available to people who aren't currently homeless. Might be people coming out of the hospital. Might be people who even coming out of prison, who don't have a job to return to, who are poor and have some disability. We know a lot of people coming out of prison have mental health and chemical dependency issues. This service could really help them make that transition back to community life a lot more successful. We think it's going to be about an average of $10,000 per person served. So you're going to have to figure out what you think your caseload is going to look like. Some of this service can be provided remotely. Up to 20% of the services can be done remotely. So I know we already use ITV for a lot of things. So you're going to have a lot of opportunity to make this work. So I think you're just going to have to kind of look at your budgets and your need. It's available to anybody who is 18 and over who has this kind of disability or need. So it's not available for children right now. That's not to say in the future we wouldn't go back to CMS and ask for that, but we kept it right now to adults 18 and over and seniors.
So then if we want to, we would have to apply for this program if we want to do it.
There'll be a provider enrollment period, but you already are a provider enrolled in Medicaid. So this will be just adding on this additional service to the services you already offer to your community.
Okay.
Jane, can this be also used for those that are currently in housing that are having difficulties?
Yes.
If they've got diagnoses and
Yep.
whatever? Okay.
It'll be perfect for folks at New Moon, perfect for folks in housing that are struggling, that are, you know, facing eviction or you're really worried about. It'll be those folks that are doing a lot of couch hopping right now and you're really nervous that as winter comes, it's going to be a problem for them. So it's really going to be a great service for all those folks.
I think it's a wonderful program. It sounds like it'll help alleviate some of the issues we've been having with regards to even housing or chemically dependent people, anybody with any kind of disability, whether it be even a veteran or whoever it may be. So I really think it's going to be a great program for our people and also for our programs to assist them with that
So,
stability.
Where exactly would these individuals be housed, and what department?
I would say you should do it everywhere. So make it your clinic, start working with housing, with New Moon, you could make this work all sorts of different ways, and that's going to be up to you to decide, but you really have a lot of opportunity. You're really situated very well to do this and to add this on to kind of some existing programs. But having volunteered here, I know you're in really good shape to do this. I can say that.
Seems like this would be a better fit with the CHRs.
Well, I think that's up to the unit to decide what they, what. You need that, you need that.
We do plan on hiring 2 additional people to provide the services. So even like with Teresa and the housing program, when they have an individual, we can have our staff come over and provide that service. Currently, kind of how we do it now at New Moon, but it would be because we have arms workers. Melissa has an arms worker in her program that could also be doing this. And then we're going to be hiring one right now we're going to be hiring a case manager and a arms worker at New Moon. Plus we have Charmaine that's at New Moon, but the plan is to hire 2 additional positions when this all rolls out, and actually probably before, so they can get all the training and stuff to be able to provide that service.
Would they be case managers then, Kim? I mean,
well,
Pam?
We're gonna for sure hire 1 case manager, but there's parts of this that a case manager can't do.
Okay.
So I think it would be like a housing stabilization individual
Worker?
that we would hire. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can use this in your urban offices down in Duluth, down in the cities. That'd also be a great place to be doing this. And again, because of the cultural piece, you can do all 3 services.
Great.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. Good. Sounds good. Any other questions for Pam or Jane on the?
Yeah, I just had one question. What if a person that's coming out of the prison system and they've been convicted of a sexual assault, and I know when they're released back into the community that they have to have meetings with their local governments, whatever town they're going to be living in, to let the public know. And I know there's certain rules that they can't be within so many feet of children or whatever. And what would happen in that kind of a case to if that person was trying to seek housing, and what would they entail? Or what would our workers how would they work around that, or work to get that person if they did get the housing that they needed? I mean.
Well, if that person is coming out and they're on medical assistance and they have a need for the services, so let's say they had mental health issues, and that had led to the criminal sexual conduct charges, and they're coming out, they would be able to get this service, and that person would help them try to find the housing that met all the requirements that is required by the Department of Corrections. I could see that person perhaps needing that exception policy for more services for the transition piece of it. And then once they're in housing, to provide those sustaining services to keep them in housing. And what that worker would also do would be a lot of work with the Department of Corrections probation officer to make sure they're adhering to everything they're supposed to do once they get out of prison. That would be incorporated into their housing plan, so that they would have even more services and more support to be successful. You do not want someone like that to be homeless, because that puts them at much higher risk for reoffending. So if they're housed and they have the support they need, they're much less dangerous to the community. So that's what we really want in that situation.
Okay. Then another question is, I know that Barb Rodine is our lease coordinator, and she does a really excellent job in trying to help people secure a lot or a lease for a home somewhere. And then I know that Joel Ashelford, our Public Works Director, also does a good job in trying to help people with water and sewer. But I know that right in the village here, we're starting to run out of area to house people here. And I know a lot of people don't want to live here in Nett Lake, and but we're just running out of area because of the small area that we have. And so I know that your people would probably work closely with those two people to secure a site and make sure there's adequate water and sewer for them to utilize.
Right, that'll be part of the job of the person working on transition, is to make sure that the housing has everything it needs, to meet code or inspections or that type of thing. We don't want someone moving into a situation where they don't have heat or they don't have plumbing or electricity, because that's just set up for failure. So we're going to be working, the staff will be working really closely with housing and any other resource to make sure it works.
Okay, that's all I have.
Sounds like a great program.
Yeah, we're very excited. So thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, Pam?
So the next one is the ESP program, the Emergency Services Program, which we use to, Fortune Bay is our vendor, and that's where we utilize them to house homeless individuals on a very short-term basis. So the last 2 years, we had received $10,000 a year. This year, we will receive $7,000 a year. And the reason for that is last year, we were able to spend out all of the money, but not on housing homeless individuals. Our numbers had gone down, which is kind of a good thing. But OEO did let us spend it on other things that we could give then to the homeless people.
Okay.
So this year we went down to, instead of $10,000, $7,000 a year.
Okay. So this is a 2-year contract
Yes.
for 2020 and 2021.
Correct.
Any questions for Pam? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the State of Minnesota grant contract for emergency services program in the amount of $14,000 for a 2-year period, beginning 2020 and 2021. Moved by David, is there a second? Seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
Okay, now I'm going to call Tony up. She's going to do the presentation on the proclamation.
Morning, Tony.
September is National Recovery Month that is sponsored by SAMHSA. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay.
And SAMHSA is Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration. The Bois Forte SED program is asking the Bois Forte Tribal Council to proclaim September 2019 as Bois Forte Band Recovery Month. National Recovery Month is held every September to increase awareness and celebration successes of those in recovery. National Recovery Month theme, Join the Voices for Recovery, Together We Are Stronger, emphasizes the need to share resources within the organization and community. Recovery Month will remind us that mental health and substance use disorders affect all of us, and we are all a part of the solution. National Recovery Month promotes benefits of prevention, treatment, and recovery for mental health and substance use disorder. Recovery Month spends the positive message that behavioral health is essential to overall health. And I think you all have a copy of the proclamation.
I'll read it if you don't mind.
Please do.
Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and whereas prevention of mental and substance use disorders works, treatment is effective, and people recover in our area and around our nation, and whereas preventing and overcoming mental and substance use disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally, and whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental and substance use disorders to implement preventative measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support. And whereas American Indians represent 1.5% of the total population of Minnesota, but yet have the worst race rate disparities, and whereas to help more people achieve and sustain long-term recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, SAMHSA, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and Bois Forte Substance Use Disorder Program invite all residents and members of the Bois Forte Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa to participate in National Recovery Month. And now therefore, the Bois Forte Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa do hereby proclaim the month of September 2019 as National Recovery Month, and call upon the members of the Bois Forte Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to support this year's Recovery Month theme, Join the Voices for Recovery, Together We Are Stronger. I think it's a great, great thing. Do we have a motion to approve the proclamation proclaiming the month of September 2019 as National Recovery Month?
Move.
Moved by Shane, is there a second? Second by Dave, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Great job.
I just have
Miigwech.
one quick comment. I know that at the end of the month is the Miigwech powwow, and I was wondering maybe if we could maybe plan just like a healing ceremony or something in regards to this proclamation, and have some kind of a special dance or something, or whatever.
That would be really good.
So just something that's
Good
like
idea.
a healing ceremony or healing some kind of healing song or something. So.
Yep,
We can do that.
great. Miigwech. Thank you, Tony. Good job.
The next item is the memorandum of understanding between St. Louis County and Bois Forte for the Shelter Plus Care program, which is at New Moon, where we receive funding for 6 units of rental subsidy at New Moon. So to qualify for that, it has to be upon move-in with some form of disability. So very similar to what Jane had presented. It could be mental health diagnosis, substance use diagnosis, a physical, and so it's all done before they move in.
Okay.
Oh, one change on it too. It was under Gordy Adams, so it's been changed to Teresa Morrison.
On page 2.
That's one of the things I was gonna point out.
Okay, that's on page 2 of the agreement, so that'll be changed to Teresa Morrison. Any other questions or comments on this?
On the number 7, page 3 at the top there, it says insurance and bonding. Bois Forte will maintain a blanket fidelity bond covering all employees in the amount equal to cash advances from the county. What exactly does this mean?
So we have those. I normally, when I have to put all of this together, I contact Kim and those in accounting, and they send me all of our different insurance policies that I have to send in before it even gets to this contract part.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Not, I'll call for a motion to approve the Shelter Plus Care MOU agreement between St. Louis County and Bois Forte. Moved by Chief, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
The next on the agenda is the
Name change.
Name change. So we did Mark. The name change was sent to Mark, and Mark felt there was no legal issues with it, and also with Kim, because it's not where we're changing the name within all of our contracts. It's more internal.
Yep.
And the reason we're doing it is because there's so much stigma that comes with substance use, chemical dependency, and so as a group, our whole department, we decided that we would like to call our program Healing Towards Wellness instead of substance use.
Okay. Any comments? If not, I'll call for a motion to the name change for the SUD department to Healing Towards Wellness Group unit. Is there a motion? Moved by Chief. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Okay.
Then the next on our agenda is our CCDTF contract with DHS. So that's the Chemical Dependency Consolidated Treatment Fund, where we access dollars to pay for individuals to go to treatment. It's always been a 5-year contract, and so this year they've changed it to 1. So as part of the CCDTF contract, we are the placing authority to place individuals in treatment. And DHS has changed it from a 5-year to a 1-year, and they actually weren't even going to renew the contracts. But back in March, I think it was, I had contacted DHS because I knew that contract was ending June 30th. So after several emails back and forth, DHS did do the contracts for all tribes for 1 year. So at our last American Indian Advisory Council meeting, I had asked the other tribes to bring it back to their executive directors and their council to see where we want it to go back to 5 years instead of the 1 year. And Don Moore from DHS, I did ask him what would happen if our council doesn't sign the contract unless you make it a 5-year contract. And he stated then DHS would have to do that.
Did they give you reasons why they went with the 1-year contract?
Well, it has to do with placing authority, and where there's a lot of stuff going on at DHS
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
and so I'm not gonna get into all
Yep.
of that, but we believe as an American Indian Advisory Council that they're trying to take away the placing authority, that tribes will no longer be a placing authority.
And that's one of the things that Shane and I attended the legislative priorities for DHS. And that was one of the recommendations that tribes retain that placing authority. Because I think what they're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if a CD assessment, or if whatever you call them, community assessment, or what, they're not CD assessments anymore, but
Comprehensive
assessments are done, whoever does that assessment can place that client.
Correct.
And so that takes the authority away from the tribes, and that would eliminate the need for the consolidated fund
Correct.
for the tribes. So we would lose funding for our people for placement, for treatment.
Yes, with our CCDTF, we get, it's almost like 15,000 a year from DHS for us to be doing Rule 25s. So as a placing authority, that would take our right away to
Yes.
access the CCDTF fund, which pays for treatment
Right.
of our American Indian people. And when I was talking with Don, I did ask him how the council, if they chose not to approve a one-year contract and wanted a 5-year contract, it would have to be put in writing.
I think this is my opinion, but I think it would be in the best interest of the band to go with a 5-year contract where we have that placing authority, because it states it in the contract.
Yes.
I mean, it would be, and this is again where we get to tribal consultation. And Executive Order 1924, signed by Governor Walz, states that these departments will have tribal consultation. Now, with the uproar in DHS, there has been no tribal consultation with any of the with Bois Forte anyway. And I did voice that at the meeting that the Executive Order 1924 is technically somewhat failing the tribes because it's not happening. The departments aren't consulting with the tribes regarding things, and I think that even played into part with White Earth and Leech Lake with their issues. There's no consultation. There's been no consultation with tribes with regarding to the placement authority. And that's why I think that we can determine who we should be able to place. That's our sovereignty. And that's why I myself personally would think that we should go with a 5-year contract.
And remember back in April, we had the joint advisory meetings up here, and then the council met with DHS staff that Friday. We were told at that meeting that this would not happen. We would not lose our placing authority. I'm currently waiting for something to come back in writing in regards to comprehensive assessments, because we should have been able to bill for them starting July 1, 2019. But St. Louis County has said that we cannot bill for comprehensive assessments. So I did reach out last week to Don Moore, Shawnee Hunt, Shirley Kane, and Vern. And I did hear back from Shirley Kane, and Don was supposed to have put something in writing yesterday, and I haven't received it, but stating that yes, as a tribe, we can bill for those comprehensive assessments effective July 1, 2019. Because we also talked about that at that joint meeting at Fortune Bay.
It bothers me that the county can tell us whether we can bill or not.
Well, I think the county is being told different,
By DH.
different things too.
It's a mess, but I think
It
we
is.
can decide what we feel is best for our people. I don't think DHS can do that.
I think that we should, send a letter to the governor, let him know which departments we've met with, and then point out that stuff that you were just talking about. And, then he can address it with his departments.
I agree, Shane, we will do that. I'd say go with a 5-year. Yep, okay. I make a motion, Barb. No, we're here.
I did meet with Dwayne Hill last week from MnDOT, and I did ask when the last time MnDOT met with the tribal council, and for consultation, and he said that he didn't recall that they, to his recollection, he said that he couldn't recall meeting since you have become chair. And so I asked him if he would be willing to set a meeting up. And so I did get an email from him. I haven't opened it up, but we're in the process of trying to set a meeting up between the tribal council and MnDOT for consultation. And so as soon as I find out that, where did Joel go? Anyway, I'll get everybody on the same page for that, because I think that's one of the things I know that's supposed to be happening every year. So.
Thank you, Barb. I know that we did meet with the Commissioner of Commerce last week. He did come up with his staff, which we very much appreciated. The Department of Natural Resources Commissioner came up, and then also we met with IRRRB, which they're obligated by an Executive Order 1924 to meet with us. Did I miss anybody else? I think those are the 3 departments that have met with us to this date. Yeah. MnDOT is usually pretty good about it, but.
I think it's been 2 years, I think it's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years, so, but we'll get on it. I know that my comments made at the legislative priorities made it to the governor's office, because there was a rep there, so. Plus I also told the lieutenant governor herself, so.
So will you guys send a letter then to?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll have Mark draft a letter, and then we will make a motion to approve the CCDTF contract for a period of 5 years, beginning July 1, 2019.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve that? Oops. Moved by David, seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Thank you, Pam.
Next is Kim with a sole source request for training for staff. And if you guys want to flip to page 11, that's probably what you're going to be looking for, is the cost is in there. Page 11 has the cost on it, yep.
Good morning, Kim. Oh, yep.
We have several individuals in the county.
Grab your mic. You gotta, no, the other mic.
Well, I want the one up there to work. I don't think it's on, that's all. Does that work now?
No.
Okay. It's for bookkeeping and for federal grants and contracts for tribes and tribal organizations, because we have a lot of new staff over the last 2 years that need some training in comprehensive accounting things, how it all works together. And so I'd like to have it's option A on page 11. And if we have 10 participants, it's $6,950 plus travel cost. Or if we have 20 participants, it's $7,950. And it doesn't have to be restricted to accounting staff.
Oh.
Others can come. If we go with 10, then you can add a person for 150, or you can add 10 for, So we would get a count before we do this.
Who would you recommend attend this?
Well, if we look at the side, anyone who's new to like grants would be really good to have. There's some people that we should identify that have, because if you look on, and the tribal council too, if you're available. But if you look on page, there's a list of all the things that, page 4 and 5.
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, that they cover. So, I mean, you're not working in accounting, but you would understand maybe more of what we're talking about. So I would have all of accounting. I would invite the tribal council. I think there's some new people in the organization that we should identify that should, new to grants and contracts, should attend. And then one last thing is I know time just got away and we didn't get it done in the summer, but maybe if we work with the schools and ask if there's any Native students that are interested in going in accounting that they could be excused from school for 2 days and let them come to see if they're interested in accounting.
Oh,
That'd be a good
that's a
idea.
good idea.
Because we need to,
We need to start recruiting them young.
yeah, because they need to go to school and get, we got more retirements coming. So we always need people.
So this would this be in next year's funding or this year's funding? What do you?
It depends on when we have it. I would like to see, like, it has to be a non-payroll week, first of all.
Okay. It probably have to be in October, so we're looking,
Yeah,
it's already
it's-
September, so.
Yeah, I don't know, I have to email them, so I would like to have it done before mid-October,
Okay,
before we get too far closing out for audits and stuff.
okay,
We gotta get through September with the budgeting, so
yeah. And you've got money to cover this in the, okay.
I have it in my budget, yeah.
Okay, I think it's a good idea. I don't think we should put an amount or number on it yet until we know how much exactly, when you identify the numbers. But just to give you the go-ahead to go ahead and have the training.
Yep.
Is that okay, guys? Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion to approve the, it's Falmouth, right?
Yep.
Holy, wait now. We have a motion to approve Kim to pursue Falmouth training for accounting for staff, students, and other staff.
Yep.
Made by
And
Travis. Council, sorry.
Second.
Second by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. You'll get those numbers to us then. Yes. Come up here. You gotta come up here because the mic's gone.
I don't know if anybody else caught it, but what was the name of the training?
It's I'm sorry.
Bookkeeping?
Basic bookkeeping, federal grants and contracts accounting for tribes and tribal organizations.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Sidra, for that.
And if anyone else is looking at, one last thing is if someone else is looking to have Falmouth do a training, if you do it within so many days,
Discount?
you get a discount for having them.
Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. You're all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Okay, the next item that I had to have added at the last minute was the self-governance agreements for the BIA. I just got them Monday afternoon.
Okay.
Ken Reinfeld. We had met with him end of July, and there was some changes. But the first one is the multi-year funding agreement. These are standard items. There's the multi-year funding agreement, then there's the retained services agreement. There should be for tribal transportation, and then there's what's called the reprogramming request. I know not all the council was available the day that we did this, but there's not a lot of change in anything. The biggest things that when they were here, well, first of all, Congress hasn't passed a budget yet.
Yeah, well, that's
It's
par for the
September
course.
4th. The other thing is that the tribal transportation will remain under its current authority because it's at the end of its authority. They usually do it like in a multi-year authority.
Okay.
So when that comes, it's the, right now it's called the FAST Act.
Yep.
And that's expiring, so they have to pass a new one. But our funds are all subject to The BIA sends us the documents, I don't do them. Are subject to Congress appropriation. So one thing that they did cut, that wasn't in here, the only thing that I've seen so far cut is the HIP program, which
They
we
cut
get the
that every
administration
year,
dollars
yeah.
of about $2,000 or $3,000 a year, until Congress restores that.
Pretty soon there will be no money for HIP, they keep cutting. It's just so minimal that,
Well, it's just administration dollars we get, because you have to, for HIP, you have to, they have to apply and compete nationally against other, it's on an individual competitive basis.
how much is this, total? Is that the 1.4
The base,
base funding?
the base funding starts out at, we gotta get, it's on page 7, I believe. $1,489,409.
Okay,
But it doesn't have the updated, what's called 638 pay costs, updated contract support cost, and then there's several items that we get that aren't recurring base. So like
Yep.
the lake restoration, we've historically gotten money for probably ever since we started the project, but it's not a base recurring fund. We
Right.
have to apply for it each year,
Okay.
and it flows through. So it's probably, by the time we get done at the end of the year, it's about 2.6 million we
Okay.
get from the BIA.
okay. Just on page 9, if you could have that, my name corrected, your signature.
Yeah, I'll have them correct it and resend the documents.
Yep. Any questions for Kim on the self-governance compact?
Spelled your name, both your names, your first name and last name wrong.
Yeah, I know. Now I'll call for a motion to approve the BIA self-governance document for the multi-year funding agreement for 2020 through 2022. Is there a motion to approve? Where is it? Moved by David, is there a second? Second by Chief, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Good. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Next is Shane with a discussion about hemp.
Huh? They are all included?
It's all included in
Yeah. Okay.
You're up, Shane.
All right, now I know that we talked about this before on and off, and about the possibility of getting into the hemp business. And, you know, as you know, looking at the Department of Agriculture website, you know, they have a pilot program on there, you know, for I think we should take a look at that. Maybe that's an avenue that we can pursue, you know, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they can do with hemp. You know, I was looking at the, where's my pictures here on my phone? I took some stuff, you know, what they can do with it. You know, they're using it for construction. They can build, they can make it into rope, you know, and if we did do that, if we did decide to do that, you know, we could look at what avenues do we want to do? Do we want to do just the outside one? Do we want to do make one for the inside? Try to keep it a operation that goes year-round, you know, maybe medical marijuana even. You know, and of course it's going to create jobs, and then look at how big a facility do we need to be self-sustaining, so that we're not pouring any money into it. You know, and you know, first thing to do is, you know, okay, if we did do this, okay, then we'd have to get a buyer. Connect up with somebody and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We'll supply this. Will you buy this? Whatever, how much they buy it for, bales or whatever. And you know, and then look at, you know, number of staff we're going to need, equipment, salaries, benefits. Does it need to be guarded at night? You know, 24 hours a day, stuff like that. and then kind of doing a study, see what it could generate. And then basically, put it out to the people too, is what we really want to do. Myself, common sense says that we need to get into the markets with the least amount of competitors. So if we get into like a grocery store, well, there's a lot of grocery stores. We're not going to make money on that. Probably wouldn't even break even, I bet. So I think that's what we need to look at.
I know that the Whiter Reservation was growing hemp, and maybe through the University of Minnesota, I don't know if it was Extension or University of Minnesota itself, maybe it would be a spot to check and see, if somebody's done it now. And I haven't heard about it, so I'm not sure, but I know that we'll be meeting with Whiter at the TDC meeting next week, so we could have a discussion with them.
Mm-hmm.
On their hemp growing. It doesn't hurt to ask and look into it, so.
I think that, the other thing too is that, some of the problems that come along with it, like, I was reading, I bought a hemp book over the weekend just to read up on it, and some of the problems that some of the other ones are having is that when, in one state, if it's legal, and they go, and then the business, when they're transporting it, supplying it to somebody else, and they go to a state where it's not legal, and they get stopped, they get into legal trouble. So that's some things we're gonna have to consider.
And then the other thing too, Shane, is that we could contact the Department of Agriculture, and I think we talked about it with IRRRB.
Yep.
Too, and there's contacts that we can have to at least start the
Kathy, is your
research
mic on?
on it.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it is now.
Okay.
It wasn't earlier. I apologize. I keep forgetting to turn it on. But that we could, do some research on it and see what we can come up with and find out how White Earth is doing with their project. And it is a huge industry right now.
I know that Canada too is their market. It's that market's it's already open and it's starting to explode onto the scene. And it's like I think in a few years, if let's say we didn't do this, let's say they said we decided to go against it and not do it, and let's say somebody opens up a business, and once it becomes legal, they open up a business or a farm that's close to a reservation, and that farm takes off, and we could be thinking, wow, that could have been us.
Mm-hmm. Pam?
You could probably check with Prior Lake. Prior Lake is actually going to be doing like some prototypes of homes in October. They're going to build them in 2 different ways, but so maybe you would, because they talked about it at the Minnesota Housing Conference.
Oh, okay.
And they talked, like not only building the homes, but growing their own hemp, so it will become a business.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they were talking about even the sustainability of homes being built out of hemp versus being built out of wood.
Wow.
So you might want to contact somebody down there in their housing.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the issues is that, like, I was reading up a little bit, and 1 acre of hemp growing produces 4 times the amount of oxygen that an acre of trees do, which we're, right now in the Amazons, it's on fire, it's burning. That's one of the largest producers of oxygen in the world. And we take it for granted. We all breathe. We don't think nothing of it. How many people actually think about the Amazon burning daily, besides me?
I think looking at some of the websites regarding hemp, hemp produces more pulp per acre than timber on a sustainable basis. It could be used to make every quality of paper. Hemp paper manufacture reduces wastewater contamination compared to trees. So, and we if you're watching, everything's going towards more clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if we did something like this, it would be a huge step in the right direction for us.
Yep. Well, we'll do some go ahead, Darren. Come on, no, grab the mic. Where is it? Oh, okay.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I have one question though. Is the Business Development Corporation still functioning?
Through Fortune Bay, yes, there is a Bois Fort Development Corporation.
There is one. Okay.
Yes.
Because I think it would be wise if we're looking at business ventures to put together like another business development corporation or something of people, maybe local business owners and people that can get together and work on projects like this. Maybe to keep eyes out for property we can buy. I know there's like this little resort up by Ash Lake for sale. And maybe we could continue on from the hemp idea with an actual business team to look for generating revenue for the tribe.
Yeah.
So if that would be something to look into, I think.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Okay, well, we'll put you in charge of that, Shane.
I even thought of a name for our business,
Uh-oh.
Up in Smoke. In reference to Cheech and Chong, of course, that's just humorous there.
Okay. Thank you, though, Shane, for those comments. You know, we need to start looking ahead for the future. Okay. We'll get a hold of White Earth too next week and talk with them about their project. Okay.
All right, so next is the
Jenna.
National Congress of American Indians membership dues.
I have a question. I received an email from Gary Fraser at the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, and my NCAI dues were paid by the MCT. So, because of being president of the MCT, so I don't know if I need to do a renewal. We'll check with NCAI on that, because I see
Okay.
I'm listed on the renewal, so it might be a lesser fee than what we have here.
Okay. So are you tabling it?
So this
We
is,
can just say that, you know, we can pass it, and then we'll
Okay.
check, and then if we can omit myself on there because I've already
Okay.
been paid for. Do we have a motion to approve the NCAI membership dues in the amount of, what is it?
240.
$240 per person?
Move, no,
No.
total.
Total. 6,500.
6,500.
Moved by chief, with the exception if I'm removed off it for
Yep.
already being paid, that it'll be a lesser amount. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Next is an appointment to the Minnesota Historical Society Indian Advisory Committee. So previously, I believe this was Corey, but the committee is made up of other executive directors from heritage museums.
Okay,
And so we wanted to appoint Jalen.
okay. And he's okay with being on the committee?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Jalen Strong to the Minnesota Historical Society Indian Advisory Committee?
Move.
Moved by chief. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Then next is the reimbursement resolution that Mark sent out this morning. And you guys all should have a copy of that.
Yeah. This is regarding the hotel siding project at Fortune Bay. And there was a bond that was needed for the project, and according to Mark's comments, the bond lawyer made a few changes and increased the project estimate to give more cushion. Please use this version at the meeting, is Mark's recommendation. I think it's in regards to tax exempt obligations. I'll read the resolution. It's a reimbursement resolution, whereas the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa is a federally recognized Indian tribe organized under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, as amended in the revised Constitution and bylaws of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. And whereas the lawful governing body of the band is the Bois Forte Reservation Tribal Council, and it is authorized by to engage in any business that will further the economic well-being of the members of the band and to borrow money for reservation purposes and pledge income and chattel as security for indebtedness. And whereas the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa Indians, the issuer, has an intent to finance the project as defined in Section 2 of this resolution. And whereas the IRS Code of 1986 and the applicable regulation thereunder require the issuer to take this action in connection with the payment of certain expenses in connection with the projects prior to the issuance of tax-exempt obligations in order to allow the issuer to be reimbursed for such expenditures with proceeds of the obligations. And now therefore be it resolved that the statements contained in this resolution with respect to the reimbursement of the expenditures described in this resolution are intended to be statements of official intent as required by and in conformance with the provisions of Treasury Regulations Section 1:150-2E. The expenditures to be reimbursed pursuant to this resolution have been incurred within 60 days prior to the date hereof or will be incurred after the date hereof in connection with a capital improvement and renovation program for a hotel located at Fortune Bay Resort Casino, located within the reservation of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa, including, without limitation, the residing thereof and furniture, fixtures, and equipment therefore, and improvements to related areas such as nearby parking, the project. The maximum principal amount of debt expected to be issued for the project is $7 million. The issuer reasonably expects to reimburse the expenditures set forth in this resolution with the proceeds of tax-exempt debt to be incurred by the issuer subsequent to the date hereof, but this resolution does not constitute a binding obligation to issue such debt. This resolution will take effect immediately. So that's the resolution.
I have a question on number 3. The maximum principal amount of debt expected to be issued for this project is $7 million. And we awarded the contract for?
The contract, the project is $4.8 million.
Okay.
I know that with regards to the project at Fortune Bay, there may be some unforeseen costs. One of them being the older section of the hotel, because the whole Fortune Bay Resort Casino is going to be re-sided. And it'll be done in 3 phases. And one of the issues that we're running into is the older part of the hotel with the decks that were there, and then some possible unforeseen things behind the siding that due to water leakage, we're not sure what's under there until it's torn off. So I think what this does is just add extra cushion in case we run into some major issues with regards to the project that are unforeseen. That's all I think. That's what I think anyway.
Okay. No, I have no disagreement with that. That's a good idea, because there's going to be stuff that they can't foresee. There's going to be problems, issues. But on the flip side, with this siding, it's going to last 25 years, I do believe they said. And we have 25 years to set aside $5 million so we don't have to go after another loan to do this. Just do it on our own. If we set aside the money and plan for it, it can be done.
And, that's one thing I think that the council's been pretty consistent with is that we start putting money aside for emergencies, unexpected things that come up, and also for the capital expenditures at Fortune Bay. I know that Fortune Bay now is put in like new generators, because everything, including ourselves, that gets old usually needs fixing. And we know that that's been neglected at Fortune Bay for quite a number of years, and that is the original siding since the building's been built, the old part and the new part, so. So it's gonna be actually siding and windows, replacing all the windows, and we know there's been a lot of leakage issues, at the casino, where it's actually leaked. We had the roof replaced, but now we're doing the siding and the windows. And then we're gonna run into trouble with some of the decks, but, you know, we're kind of anticipating that.
And
so.
insulation.
And insulation, yes. So do we have a motion to approve the reimbursement resolution?
Move.
Moved by Travis, is there a second? Second by Dave, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Okay,
And under other, we just had a discussion on the elder newsletter.
okay. Good morning, Sidra.
Good morning. So I just wanted to bring up an issue that I think I've heard comment from a few people, from a few different elders in reference to the newsletter, that they would like to see the newsletter come out maybe a month or two before the activities are going to be taking place. Many of the elders aren't, I know that much of our media and much of our notifications are going towards
Computer.
email, Facebook, you know, to more social media. And many of our elders are not using that as a form of communication, and are relying on the actual newsletter, not only the Bois Forte News, but the actual elder newsletter that they receive. And so I think it was back in June or July, the newsletter was received like on the 23rd of July. And so all of the July activities were already done. It might have been June even. And so oftentimes, even if they receive it, you know, say the first or second week of the month, they don't have time to get, you know, to get things ready and for community cleanup or make plans for transportation to activities or, you know, things like that. So a few of the elders had mentioned to me that it would be nice to have a month or so in advance notice. And I know that we have talked about creating a calendar, you know, well in advance, not only for us to plan within our organization, but also for our community members to be able to make plans as well. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. I told them that I would bring it up kind of in a public forum so that we could kind of work towards organizing things a little bit better and getting them informed better.
Okay, I know that Natalie is just new to her position with regards to the elderly coordinator taking Mavis's place, because Mavis retired. And maybe this is something that Natalie and Dan, who's in charge of the department, they can, I know that Louise, when she does the Bois Forte newsletter, you kind of got to do it in advance, like a month or two in advance, because you're trying to get things out there for people to see. And I know a lot of elders don't use social media. Some of us are, including myself, don't like to really use those calendars on there. So I think the newsletter is great, especially I know like menus. They like the menus on there, so they know what's going to be given to them at any time. But and maybe if there's a way we can coordinate, maybe Jenna, if we could somehow coordinate, because I know Louise is pretty good at with ours, and I'm not sure how really busy she is, but if we could do some ideas and do some brainstorming together with what we do with ours, and then it might be nice to incorporate an elder page maybe in the newsletter to take some of that the events and stuff that are coming up and incorporating in the Bois Forte News.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of, remembering that so many, that there's many of our elders that are homebound.
Yeah.
And, I kind of laugh, my dad is one of them.
Yeah.
And he, he just sits at home and thinks. So he just thinks about things. And so when he gets me on the phone, he just fills my ear with all kinds of things. So taking that into consideration, when they call and when they have questions about things, they've had time to think about things. So
We'll get together with Natalie and Dan and Louise and them, and maybe we'll get that figured out.
Okay.
Good.
Miigwech.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Miigwech. Yes. Yes, please.
I agree that elders need to be informed, but programs need to be more proactive about informing our elders too.
Okay.
I took the flyers down to Natalie and asked her to send them out with meals. I send notices to the school when we have events, to have the school send out notices. Our programs need to be more proactive, not just put on the responsibility
On
of
Natalie.
who's running the elder meals.
And don't put it on email or whatever. Paper needs to still come out.
Yep, and go around posting at the store.
Yep.
In places. I do. That's how we get the word out.
Good. Thank you, Tony. Darren?
It'd be nice to see, to get that program from you to put on the radio too.
Oh.
Actually, I just started a morning show, so every
Okay.
7 to 8 o'clock I'll be on the radio.
Okay.
And I bet you some of those elders listen to the radio.
Uh-huh. Good idea.
If not, maybe we can get them a radio. And yeah. So
That's a really good
we do
idea.
have a thing on our website, kbft.org. Any of your flyers, you can go on there to the calendar page and upload it. Sometimes I try to get all the community events on our calendar. They
Okay.
get lost in emails and stuff like that. So if you want, you can upload them yourself too, straight to
Great.
our website. Thanks.
Great information. Thank you, Darren. Okay, good. No other business? That's it. You have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Holy. Shane is seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for coming.